Hello, everyone. I am Vidya from English Magus. Welcome back to another engaging lesson for Class 11 CBSE students. Today, we will explore Khushwant Singh's nostalgic and heartwarming story The Portrait of a Lady, Chapter 1 in the book Hornbill. This story beautifully captures the essence of the author's bond with his grandmother, highlighting the passage of time and the inevitable changes in relationships. Let's walk through these memories together. First, let's know a little about the author. Khushwant Singh, born in 1915, was an Indian author, journalist, and lawyer. Known for his wit and candid style, he penned numerous novels, short stories, and essays, including the classic Train to Pakistan. Singh served as editor of several prominent publications and was awarded the Padma Bhushan for his contributions to literature and journalism. Now we will begin paragraph-wise explanation of the story. I recommend you to pause the video at each slide and read the text before you hear the explanation. You will have better results. Let's plunge into the chapter. The story begins with Khushwant Singh sharing a vivid description of his grandmother. He recalls how she had always been old and wrinkled for as long as he could remember. The thought of her ever being young or even married was hard to believe. His grandfather's portrait, with a long white beard and traditional clothes, seemed ancient, making it even more difficult to imagine a lively grandmother. Singh humorously mentioned that his grandfather looked like the kind of person who could have had a lot of grandchildren, not a wife. Many of us can relate to this, remembering our elders only in their older years. In the second paragraph, the author describes grandmother's age and her wrinkled face, and unique beauty. She wasn't conventionally pretty, but she had a serene and peaceful charm. Always dressed in spotless white, her silver hair untidy, and constantly counting her rosary beads, she symbolized purity. Singh beautifully compared her to a winter landscape in the mountains, a stunning metaphor for her calm and peaceful aura. Doesn't this image evoke a sense of stillness and quiet beauty? In the third paragraph, Khushwant Singh reminisces about the deep bond he shared with his grandmother. When his parents moved to the city, he was left in her care, and they became inseparable companions. Every morning, she would wake him up, bathe and dress him, and even walk him to school. She packed his slate and tied it with care, giving him a simple breakfast before they left for school. This routine may have been simple, but it was filled with love. Even on the way to school, she fed the village dogs with stale chapatis she carried with her. Things changed when they moved to the city. This marked the turning point in their relationship. The grandmother no longer walked him to school. He started attending an English school and the dynamic between them shifted. She didn't approve of many aspects of city life, especially the modern education her grandson received. And instead of the village dogs, she began feeding the sparrows in their courtyard, forming a new bond with these tiny birds. Let's move to the next paragraph. As the author's education progressed, his grandmother became increasingly uncomfortable. She didn't understand the English lessons or Western science he learned. Her biggest disappointment came when he told her about music lessons. To her, music was associated with beggars and was not something respectable people engaged in. Her silence after this revelation indicated her disapproval, and the warmth of their conversations started to fade. This highlighted the generation gap that often arises in families, where traditional values clash with modern ways of living. As time went on, their bond weakened further. When Singh went to university, he was given a separate room, and their companionship was reduced to mere routine interactions. The grandmother accepted this distance gracefully, withdrawing into her prayers and spinning wheel. She spent hours by herself, only relaxing in the afternoons when she fed the sparrows. Those moments with the sparrows seemed to be her happiest, as they gathered around her, creating a chaotic yet joyous atmosphere. It's a touching image, an old woman surrounded by hundreds of birds, her only true companions in those later years. Eventually, Singh decided to go abroad for higher studies. He remembered being worried about how his grandmother would react, but she surprised him. She remained calm and composed. At the railway station, she didn't show any emotion, her lips moving in silent prayer, and her fingers busy with her rosary beads. The only gesture of affection was a quiet kiss on his forehead, a sign of her silent love and blessing. It was a powerful moment of goodbye, filled with deep emotion yet expressed so subtly. When Singh returned from abroad after 5 years, his grandmother seemed unchanged. She still fed the sparrows, and her life continued in the same quiet routine. But on the day of his arrival, something unusual happened. For the first time, she didn't pray. Instead, She gathered the women of the neighborhood and sang songs of warriors' homecoming, thumping an old drum in celebration. This sudden change was a sign that something had shifted in her. The next morning, she fell ill. Despite the doctor's assurance that it was a mild fever, the grandmother knew her end was near. She told the family that she didn't want to waste any time talking, and continued praying. As the family watched, her lips stopped moving, and the rosary fell from her fingers. Her peaceful death mirrored the serene life she had led. In the last paragraph we see one of the most poignant scenes in the story. As the family prepared for her funeral, thousands of sparrows flew in the veranda and her room, sitting quietly near her body. Even when the family offered them crumbs of bread, they refused to eat. Their silent, sorrowful presence seemed like a tribute to the grandmother, who had fed and cared for them every day. The sparrow's quiet mourning added a deeply touching, almost spiritual layer to her passing. In conclusion, we can say, Khushwant Singh's The Portrait of a Lady is more than just a recollection of his grandmother's life. It's a reflection on the passage of time, the changes in relationships, and the unspoken bonds that connect us to our elders. Through his detailed narrative, Singh invites us to think about our own relationships with our grandparents and the memories we cherish with them. What lessons do we carry forward from these relationships? With this, the chapter ends. Here is a list of figures of speech. Pause the video and go through it. Thank you for watching, and if you found this lesson meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue learning together. See you in the next video.